Hello, I'm going to read Chapter 1 of Going to Wings. The secret of life is to find out who you are and then be it. E.A. Robinson. Chapter 1, The Telling, 1975. I didn't have the courage to say the words out loud. Instead, I wrote a letter that was in my purse on the car seat beside me. It was written on notebook paper that I had folded and refolded so many times since yesterday that it had become as soft as a baby's diaper. Whispering to myself in the car, I moved my lips as I read the words again, my heart pounding as I imagined Mama in her house, looking forward to my visit, unsuspecting what it would bring. Dear Mama, I hope you understand what a hard letter this is for me to write. I hate even to mention this name because I know how much you hate to hear it. But, Mama, I have been in touch with Ellen again. 4 years ago, when Harville discovered our relationship and forced me to tell you about it, I know I promised to break it off and not to see her again. I told you both that I would be a good wife and maybe a mother. I was afraid you and Harville were going to put me into the state hospital to try to cure me of what you thought was my sickness. As I read the words I had written in my straight-up-and-down handwriting, I realized that this was much worse than the day I told Harville I wanted a divorce. I continued to read, pretending that I was Mama, holding the letter in front of her. Ellen and I want to be together. We want to buy a house here in Milledgeville and be happy and teach English and have a normal life. I have prayed about this, and it feels right to me. I want you to understand and give me your blessing. I love you, Sandra. I tried to imagine Mama paying attention to my feelings and trying to understand. After all, she was my mother. She was the only one who would care if I bumped my funny bone or if I got a splinter. At the edge of the yard was the mimosa tree I climbed as a child. Daddy had propped a short ladder against the trunk so that I could reach the first juncture. From there I could climb higher into the tree. I never learned to shinny up at the trunk like a boy, but once there I could pull myself up and settle into the lap of the tree, where I wallowed. I put my cheek against the trunk. I stripped the fan-shaped leaves and breathed in their fresh green scent. I buried my nose in the tickly peach-scented blossoms. From my vantage point, I watched our neighborhood below. Roy and Howard Pounds tumbling in the grass 2 houses over. The Negro maids walking to their jobs cleaning houses. And Sally, my childhood best friend, walking up the street to bully me once again. Mama had rescued me one day when I fell out of the tree and lost my breath. She was always somewhere close and watching, ready to come to me. She had taught me how to defend myself against Sally, how to grab the sensitive skin under her arm and pinch hard. I had gone one step further, balled up my fist and punched her in the mouth. Mama would have been proud of me. I folded the letter, put it back into my purse, and got out of the car, slamming the door behind me. I walked across the spring clover to the front porch. The French door was open, and the black screen was hooked. I put my nose against the metallic-smelling metal and peered inside. Mama wasn't in the living room in her pink velour chair. "Mama," I called as I pressed the buzzer and looked down the shiny wooden hallway that led to my sister Linda's old room, and then out the window, where I saw Mama's silhouette in the swing on the back porch, moving back and forth. She was facing the neighbor's backyard, her arms folded across her chest, her feet crossed at the ankles. She often sat there in the late afternoon and thought about how much she missed Daddy, since he had died young at 57. She had told me that Daddy was the only one she could talk to about many things. I feared that this afternoon would be something she needed Daddy for, except for one thing. She wouldn't want him to know. A paved walkway ran around the side of the house leading to the back porch. As I got to the gate, I heard the swing chain creaking rhythmically. At the top of the steps outside the screen door, the string mop hung on a nail. As a child, I made this mop my friend. Propping the stick against a chair, the string end hanging down like damp, pungent hair, I separated the strands. In my hand, the mop became a girl with long hair and a slender body. Seeing me stump around the backyard with the mop, Daddy sawed a square face in his wood shop and nailed it up close under the hair. With a magic marker, he drew on eyes, nose, and mouth, and then he nailed a stick across her chest for arms. On the stick body, Mama hung a green and white checkered dress with a sash. Dressed up this way by my parents, my friend looked disguised, ready to go to a Halloween party. She didn't look like the friend I saw in her, a girl whose essence I felt more than just a face with features or body with flesh. Passing the mop, no longer with its face, I pulled open the screen door and stepped onto the porch. I sat down in the rocking chair beside the swing. The grass in the backyard was dappled in patches of shade and sun. The swing set where I used to hang by my knees was rusted, the wooden seat rotten and hanging loose on one end. "How was your day?" I asked Mama. "Well, I did 2 washes and made a lemon jello cake and took it to Miss Layfield for my Sunday school class," she said. "She's shut in with a broken leg. I'm glad you came by," she said. "I was hoping you would." I was rocking big in the chair, my feet tapping the concrete floor. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of myself as a child, wearing red shorts at the swing set, my hands on the bar overhead, my feet lifting up off the swing, my hands gripping the bar tighter, the moving swing coming back and striking the top of my right foot, creating a bleeding gash. Mama rushing out the door to me. She had asked me many times not to begin a sentence with "Mama, I have something to tell you." A sentence that began that way always meant bad news. Instead, I said, "Mama, I have something I want to talk to you about. It's hard for me to explain, so I wrote it down." I took the soft paper out of my purse, unfolded it, and handed it to her. She took the paper from my hand. The swing stopped moving as she began to read. Resting my elbows on my knees, I leaned forward, watching as her eyes moved back and forth across the lines. She had read only half when the paper slipped from her fingers and drifted to the gray concrete like a wounded bird. She put her face into her hands, shaking her head from side to side. When she looked up, her face was distorted and her eyes wet. "I can't stay in Milledgeville if you do this," she said. "I'm going to have to move." Then she looked down and twisted her hands in her lap. "There were women like that when I was in nurses' training," she said. "Everybody talked about them. They were looked down on. The other nurses were disgusted. Do you know what those women do?"